Hey everyone, this is Corinne Lafont, your favorite radio host, your only radio host, and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean on Between the Lines. And you know how I always start my show off with gratitude, or some people say thankfulness. It's great to be alive. It's great to be above ground. It's great to spread joy, bliss, happiness, the beauty of the world, see the beauty of the world. If you happen to be hearing a little sound, it's because of the rain. I haven't had the powers yet to control the rain. When I do, I will certainly tell you how to do it. But I am living in the Caribbean, like I mentioned, Trinidad and Tobago, and it rains a lot here. It rains a lot. I have no control over it. And it always seems at times to show up during my recording when I'm recording beautiful women like Dr. Martina Wagner. Yes? So let me tell you a bit about her and we'll go straight into it. And before we do that, we're talking about removing negative patterns, gaining self awareness, and avoiding burnout. We're also going to be bringing in a couple of other new phrases that you may not have heard of before and see how it intertwines with the topic of our conversation today. But let me tell you a bit about Dr. Martina Wagner. She's an executive business coach, physical intelligence expert, and the founder of ArtesHumanis, a boutique executive development firm that helps entrepreneurs and leaders advance their careers and succeed in business. With over 20 years of leadership experience in the healthcare industry and a Ph.D. in molecular biology, Martina used her extensive knowledge on workplace challenges and the revolutionary physical intelligence modality to develop a pragmatic and results driven approach to teaching her clients how to enhance their personal leadership. Her Seven Minds framework enables her clients to achieve leadership excellence by overcoming limiting patterns and building critical competencies like self awareness, confidence, clarity of thinking, executive presence, and mental resilience. Martina trained with Daniel Johnson, SPN, a fifth-degree Taoist master who successfully overcame dyslexia and developed the self mastery system to teach students how to overcome limiting patterns and hone critical skills. Martina owned a third degree black belt in the self mastery system developed by Daniel Johnson, SPN. She co wrote the book Physical Intelligence An Introduction to Offer, an, in, an introduction to offer an introduction to this fascinating revolutionary competency that is equally, if not more important, than emotional and cognitive intelligence. Welcome, Dr. Martina Wagner, to Between the Lines.
Thank you so much for having me, Corinne.
It's
Pleasure to
great.
be here.
Yes, it's great to have you. And just like I mentioned in that last part of your bio, I've heard of emotional and cognitive intelligence, but not of physical intelligence. And you're saying physical intelligence is far superior, if I got that right, than emotional and cognitive intelligence. Explain for me.
Yes, so physical intelligence is, if you will, the missing part because we know that everything is comprised of mental, emotional, and also physical parts.
Hmm.
So far, we've learned about cognitive intelligence that is measured without IQ,
Hmm.
and it's our abstract abilities to think, logic, to reason. We know about emotional intelligence, everything about the emotions, how they're driving us, how they influence our decisions. But
Hmm.
there's a whole big piece missing, and people are slowly catching on to this because there are a number of people that started to think about physical intelligence and starting to define what it is.
Hmm.
And from our vantage point, it's actually the most fundamental intelligence. Because if you think about it for a moment, where does your intelligence come from? It's your brain, it's a physical organ. And we know that the neuro, neurological connections
Hmm.
that you are forming as a child in the first 3 years of your life, and then the adaptations, how you're molding your brain throughout your life, really influence your IQ and also your emotional intelligence. It's the whole body and the brain, the mind body connection that really have an impact on how intelligent you are, how you feel, how emotional you are. And you can actually influence both through your physical body. And that's why we say it's the most fundamental intelligence. We have a definition for physical intelligence that, in essence, just the short version of it is that it resides at the intersection of your Zen mind, your life force, and your personal potential. And why is that? It's actually physical intelligence is the landscape of all of the subconscious patterns that reside within your mind and in your body that influence, as I said, your cognitive intelligence, your emotional intelligence, and therefore have such a big impact on your thinking, the quality of your thinking, your decision making, and ultimately the direction that your life is taking. And that's why I've been studying it in function on how we can leverage physical intelligence to really help the business communities, help teams, and help leaders to be more efficient, to build their personal excellence, but to also understand how they can take care of themselves.
I'm hearing you say a couple of things. I'm sort of nodding, shaking my head, a couple of, because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking intelligence. Intelligence, is it really residing in the muscle, which really the brain is? It's a muscle in your skull. The muscle is actually being used, just like how you would use a muscle anywhere in your body. If you don't put it to work, it's not going to be exercised. It wouldn't be flexed. It wouldn't be of use. It suffers from atrophy. And it becomes sort of like useless. If you use it, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. But intelligence, in terms of, for me, I'm thinking is coming from a higher source. It's not coming from within. It is not of me. For me to be intelligent, I must be poured into from something more than me, from a being, from a source that
Mhm.
allows me to put the pieces together, to connect the dots. And my muscle, the brain, is that sort of conduit that takes in that information and helps to put the pieces together. But the intelligence itself is not resonant in the brain. It has to be poured in from somewhere else. Do you agree with that? Does that make sense?
It makes sense to a certain degree, because what we're talking about is that obviously there is a form of consciousness that
Mm.
hasn't really been defined as to where it resides in the body. And that's why I also say there is the element of life force
Mm-hmm.
inside of the physical intelligence aspect of things. But as you rightfully said earlier, it really depends how we're using our brain in terms of our faculties that we're able to leverage. So have we trained our cognitive abilities? Are we continuously using them? Are we using our mathematical abilities, our abstract abilities? Are we using our emotional intelligence? There's all of these different capabilities that certainly reside somewhere within ourselves that we can tap into and that we can leverage. But as you rightfully say, we have to really be aware of them, and we have to be able to shape them and continuously use them and perfect them to really achieve the outcomes, the level of intelligence that we want to have, the level of abilities and competencies that we want to have, and to be able to show up as the person that we would like to show up in this life.
Yeah. Now, let me put a little spin on that, or throw a little spanner, as we say in the Caribbean, and see what happens. Now, we're talking also about limiting beliefs and, obstacles getting in the way. And if we're thinking of intelligence and flexing that muscle, the brain, and leadership, what is really causing um, different types of leadership to be happening? If we have this amount, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at different people exacting leadership in different ways, and I'm wondering, where are they getting their intelligence from, because they all feel that they are smart. They all feel that they are doing the right thing, that they're justified. These different approaches to leadership is justified. And I need you to help clear that up in terms of the physical intelligence, the emotional, and the cognitive. Why is it that somebody who may be carrying out leadership in a particular way that creates influence, positivity, empowerment is not seen as a leader in the eyes of somebody who doesn't believe that working well with people, allowing them to be empowered is leadership. They think that an autocratic or about self is leadership as opposed to the greater good or for the greater impact.
Yes, that's actually an excellent question.
Thank
And
you.
it has so many different aspects here to start to take a look at. So let me first address the part of patterns, because this is really what we're talking about when we're speaking about physical intelligence. So we talked about subconscious patterns, and they're all coming from somewhere in our history of our life. So traumatic experiences leave their marks in ourselves. We tend to bury them to very deep levels within ourselves, but unbeknownst to us, they continue to influence the way that we see things. We're talking about cognitive bias, for instance, as one of these facets of how these types of influences that we had, that conditioning in our childhood from our parents, from people around us, from things that happened to us, really influence our view. It's kind of like we're wearing these rose glasses, but we're not aware that all of the information that we're taking in and what we're putting out is filtered through those experiences and through that point of view. And to a large degree, that can be emotional as well. And as we know, there's, as kids, we're experiencing many fears of things that are happening to us, new things where we could feel abandoned, we could feel afraid, we could um, have experiences that translate themselves into a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-confidence. And all of these impact at the end of the day, as I said, the way that we think, the way that we project ourselves, and decisions that we make in life and where life takes us. So if you bring the aspect of leadership in, as you rightfully said, a leader is a person that has to inspire others and engage others in the vision that they are trying to pursue and gain a followership. That really, their effectiveness really depends on, are they able to engage and motivate and inspire other people around themselves? So many of the leaders that we know, that we admire in great leaders, you see these virtues. You see that it's not coming from a egoistic power trip that these people are trying to exert their position as a leader, but you see that it's actually coming from a place where they are trying to bring other people to see a greater good, to follow them, to direct them in a direction to realize something that is at the benefit, for the benefit of greater humanity. So these are individuals that, from my perspective, have already grown past the type of patterns that held them in their, if you will, egoistic type of self benefiting type of thinking, but they have been able to master that part and can really look at the greater good of humanity and therefore inspire others to be able to follow and see that vision and believe in them.
I I I agree with you, and I find this society is quite egoistic. I don't know if you have experienced that, and I'm sensing and feeling that it's all about self. And I'm wondering to myself how much of this physical intelligence or emotional or cognitive intelligence, all these new phrases and terms, are really having any sort of influence or impact on leadership or potential leadership, or on the youths who are coming up watching these quote unquote leaders um, on which they can emulate or look to as role models?
That's again a very good question because I mean, especially this year in 2020, you start to look at leadership around the world and you're starting to scratch your head in many cases and say, what exactly is going on here and where do we see true leadership from individuals, but where do we see more muddling of politics and power struggles and quite the opposite, if you will, from leadership. So I would take a step back and say, what we really need to do is point to the leaders that we find inspiring, that have mastered these aspects of intelligence and really learn from them and bring it back into the teachings about the emotional and physical intelligence, because a lot of research has been conducted that really demonstrate once you start paying attention to that level, once you start getting into the emotional and the physical intelligence, and you see people progressing in terms of understanding that level, working on themselves, really aiming at gaining that maturity, aiming at seeing clearer, aiming at understanding what is driving themselves, they become better leaders. And organizations that they work for achieve higher profits. Employees that are working for these leaders are more engaged, are happier. So we have a direct indication that the research and the effort that goes into educating about these intelligence really makes an impact. But as of today, not enough people are really paying attention to this and really starting to take the time to invest in themselves to want to go down that path, because that takes time and effort.
You're absolutely right. And people are not working on themselves and they feel that they're all right, um, not realizing that there are things that they need to work on. And yet they go into leadership positions and they ruin the whole thing, Dr. Wagner. They ruin the whole thing. And they're not seeing that of themselves and realizing. And I think it's a fear. It's much more than the limiting beliefs or the things that they need to heal. It's a fear of having to face those traumas and experiences. And I think we all have them. We all have them. And I go through them, okay? And I have been healing mine. And it is quite liberating and empowering to me when I am able to look that trauma in the eye and say, I am not going to be afraid of you anymore. I'm not going to make you keep me in this space of darkness or in this space of fear or whatever it is that I can't move on. I'm not allowing you. So you have to, there are some people that just prefer to stay there, and it affects every facet of their lives without them even, well, I don't know if they realize it, because personal relationships, work relationships, every relationship, once you're dealing with another human being, it is going to be impacted.
Absolutely.
It is going to be impacted. It's amazing. And persons like myself, who I consider intelligent on all different levels. And I mean, people say don't toot your own horn, but I have to toot my own horn. I'm not waiting for somebody to toot it for me. And I point these things out to persons and they feel, who am I to say XYZ to them? But I notice it. I notice the triggers and the trends. And when you're trying to help persons to get out or elevate, they just feel comfortable staying where they are. They don't want to move past that or shift, have that paradigm shift, that mental shift. They're just comfortable where they are. And I had a conversation with someone last night and I said, this is a very serious question to me as an individual to decide, you know, should I help persons to become more than who they are meant to be because I see it, or to wake them up, help them to be awakened, or leave them there in their ignorance because they're not ready to let go of where they are. They're quite comfortable, and ignorance allows people to have the excuse of saying, I don't want to take on that responsibility, because once you're awakened, once you are aware and you have of that consciousness, no, you can't go back to what you were before. You can't go back. You're no, you're no more aware. So you can't go back and say, I don't know, because you do know better. And so you have a responsibility. The responsibility is even greater now because you know better. And it is expected that you behave and act accordingly. So people want to stay in a level of ignorance. They don't want to let go of that because that responsibility and accountability is not what they want to take on. How can someone like you help persons to get past that? If you're talking physical intelligence is even more than the emotional and the cognitive, how can someone like you help somebody get past that?
Well, that's actually a very interesting question, and thank you very much for asking that. And you're very right. It really depends on every individual if they're willing to make a step forward. In my case, I have to say the part that really started to get me into this journey, there were actually two components. There was one component that there was something inside of me that really pushed and said, hey, you need to do something because you're missing out on something. And I didn't quite know what exactly that was. But once I embarked on my training, that's when it started to open up, and I got really much more clear in terms of what it was that was holding me back and what I needed to work on. But the other part is that from my perspective, there isn't enough information out there to really give people a clear indication what is it that they would gain by embarking in learning about their physical intelligence. And this is what I'm trying to change in terms of educating around it. Because as you said, there is a level of awakening or maturity, if you will, that you achieve by tapping into your physical intelligence and overcome these patterns that are really holding you back. But what a lot of people are not telling, and this is only half of the story, is that actually when you start putting in that work, you gain an enormous amount of quality of life. You gain a level of mastery and a level of control of yourself and of your life that is unequaled. Most people live life completely on autopilot. They don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. They have a plan, but most of the times we know plans do not work out. And then they get thrown off balance, or something happens like happened in 2020. Like the whole world turns upside down around on us. People lose jobs, businesses shutter, people get sick. So in these types of situations, we realize that there is really something that we need to do, because we're kind of like feeling left to the powers around us. And we don't realize that we have equal amount of power to take control of ourselves, of our environment. And this is really the message that I'm trying to convey to people, that there is an avenue to move forward. There is an avenue to deal with your mental states, with your anxiety, with your stress, with all of the things that we experience, especially in this year. And you can start to build the connection to your core, that inner strength, that understanding why things are happening. And you can start gaining that level of control that is so valuable, and also elevate your spirit, your whole being, to be in a state of contentment, of joy. And that's what I call quality of life. And a lot of people, as we know, continue to search for that, and they continue to search for that outside of themselves. And that's why they never find it. They need to really look inside of themselves and work on that to be able to get to that level.
Ah, yes, looking within yourself. We come full circle again, Dr. Wagner. Back to yourself. We tend to always look outside, and I totally agree with you. And I keep telling people it's not outside, it's not outside, it's you. It's you. Like Michael Jackson says, the man in the mirror, it's the man in the mirror. It's not somebody on the outside, it's you. It's amazing. People just don't want to face themselves. Why are they running? Why are they running? There is a liberating feeling when you are able to look at yourself in the mirror. Don't you want that freedom? Come on, people. Come on. Ah, I am going to be sharing my screen here and bringing up your website. I think I have it. Do I? I hope I'm showing the right website. It's arteshumanis.com, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes. There we go.
Nice, nice, nice. So tell us here now, Dr. Wagner, where should we go for persons who may want additional information, free resources, ways to reach you, books, um,
Yes.
some downloads? Tell us. Tell me, guide me here, give me the tour.
Okay, so yes, so if you're interested in physical intelligence, learning more about that and see how you can learn about physical intelligence, then please do come to this website. We have information on our programs and services, also a section. So there's a section that talks about our courses and services for businesses, but then also for people that really want to learn it for their personal life, really enhance their personal life, learn about themselves. And that's what we were talking about, struggling with limitations and wanting to overcome that and really build a powerful mindset. Um, in the resources area, we have my book that I co-authored with Master Johnson. So Daniel Johnson and I co-authored a book that is called An Introduction to Physical Intelligence.
Mhm.
And it's on Amazon if folks want to go and pick up a copy. For folks that are listening and seeing the show, I wanted to have a special offer
Yeah.
in giving you the first chapter of the book for free, so you can kind of like dive into it and see if this is something for you
Mhm.
if you sign up for our newsletter. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that. And here what we're seeing, you're just scrolling through my blog with a bunch of different articles to learn about the different facets of physical intelligence, because we talked a lot about the mental and the emotional parts now and the patterns, but there's a huge impact on your physical well-being, on health, on nutrition, all of these aspects that make you you. So we're looking at a person kind of like on a 360 degree, from a 360 degree view, really looking at all aspects of you as a person and making sure that you are on the right path, that you can work on all different levels to really transform your life and move it in the right direction.
Nice. And I see you have something here for women specifically so they can check out these resources. Why are you so biased, Dr. Wagner? Where are the men? Where are the men?
Oh, well, physical intelligence is for everyone, but my very special passion is for women, because women have been struggling so much,
Mhm.
especially in the business setting. And from my perspective, it has to do a lot with the conditioning that women go through from right the beginning when they are born.
Mm.
And we're all trained to think in a certain way. And that unfortunately limits us. And there's been many studies that talk about how women do not ask, how women are not really going out there and claiming their ground.
Mm.
And many times it has to do with their culture, their level of upbringing, what were the types of messages, how were they educated. And so we're all very nice and
Mhm.
not really assertive enough to move in a direction that is going to make us happy and allows us to make the contribution that we want to make in our lives. And this has been the story of my life and my transformation and development. And that's why I'm so passionate to specifically help other women to seize their power, and specifically for their career, in terms of compensation, in terms of opportunities, promotions, and climbing the career ladder, if this is what they choose to do, to really be able to help them to build that inner strength, to build that confidence, that assertiveness, and all of the competencies that they need to be a leader that is really effective in this society.
One of what, based on what you're sharing there a while ago, Dr. Wagner, we as women, because I too am on that journey with you, if we assert ourselves and speak up and set boundaries and standards, we are seen as too masculine. We are supposed to be submissive. And once we set standards, it's like, who do you think you are? And you think you're all that. For actually protecting ourselves and preserving ourselves and having some sort of standard and setting boundaries. We are clearly, we were programmed to believe we are not supposed to. We are supposed to just take whatever is dished out to us, and be humble and quiet. Don't speak about it. And I am really not into that at all. I I'm not into that. Can you tell from the sound of my voice? I am really not into that. I am speaking out. I really don't care who likes it, who doesn't like it. I am not living my life for anyone but me. And I set a standard. And if you don't fit into that, well, you can keep moving, kick rocks, as they say. So, that's just my take on it. And I may be a loner. It might be a little lonely for a while because you set a standard, and forgive the dog barking in the back, but it might be a bit lonely, but it's not lonely forever. There are people who will eventually figure it out and join you where you are. And there are people who are there before you who have realized that they have been accepting toxicity and abuse,
Mhm.
all sorts of different things to be who they are really meant to be, an authentic you. And I do believe that what you're teaching and promoting about this physical intelligence, emotional and cognitive, is all about really being an authentic you, accepting you, being who you are, and being the best version of yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any
Yeah.
final words as we wrap up?
Yes, I wanted to leave listeners with one particular thought,
Mm-hmm.
and that really specifically for this year that has been really hard on a lot of people. But whatever challenges you're facing now, don't be afraid. There's always an opportunity that is waiting for you.
Oh, yes.
You are here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let that present situation deter you from your path. The important part is to continue to move forward. And that's what we talked about a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
Things will change because things always change. As we've seen, they can change at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, nobody that is old talks about what they did, but about the things that they didn't do,
Hmm.
what they regret not doing.
Mm.
So it's your opportunity. Make the choice to invest in yourself, to be ready to seize that opportunity that is there for you and make your difference.
That's that's the lesson for the year. I've been doing a couple interviews, and across the board, I've been hearing about opportunity, seizing the moment. And I think 2020 has, well, I hope 2020 has taught persons that, yeah, to really take advantage. And not only that, to not get comfortable, and to be flexible, and to understand that you may be accustomed doing things a particular way, but there are so many other ways to do it that now with the pandemic, you are forced to do it. Whether you wanted to willingly or not, you are forced to do it another way and
Mm.
get out of your comfort zone. And why should we be forced to do things a particular way or another way? Why should we be wait to be forced when you should be willingly be looking for avenues to learn other ways to do it?
Yes.
Why wait? Why wait to be pushed in a corner, your back against the wall? Why? You should be, if we are physically intelligent, emotionally intelligent, cognitively intelligent, we should be seeking out many ways to do things and not one way. Yes, my word, 2020, 2021 is on the doorstep, Dr. Wagner. It's on the doorstep, 2021.
Yeah.
So I want to wish you all the best for the holidays. It's coming up next few days. I want to wish you all
Yes.
the best. You and your family, your friends, your community. I want to wish you all the best in your work that you're doing. Keep pushing. It will reach the right ears, and the right hearts over time, at the right time. Everything is
Absolutely.
divine timing. Thank you so much for being on Between the Lines. We really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much for having me. And same to you. Happy holidays and to everybody who's listening to us now.